Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Here, calling the Steam Gentlemen together again to form an alliance to take on the police. Welcome back to another edition of the Steam Gentlemen. I am Josh, here with my good friends Greg and Rashawn, here to do a little tour through pop culture. And today we are talking about The Warriors, a quintessential piece of 70s film. Now, if you haven't watched it, I'm going to chastise you a little bit, tell you need to get out and watch it shortly after listening to us. You know, it's not like you have a job or, you know, family to take care of or any real things to do. You need to make sure that you're keeping your pop culture references up to date. But this is an amazing film that we're going to go through, talk a little bit about how it got made, also talk about some of the parallels that it holds to society today and some of the why it still holds interest, why it still holds some cult value. But before I get too into it, I just want to go around and talk to my fellow gentlemen I haven't seen for the last week. Greg, how you doing today?
Feeling all right. You know, looking forward to Valentine's Day weekend and absolutely no sex.
All right. So you're the one. Okay. Good to know.
No.
No. Yeah, exactly.
No.
Rashawn, how about you? You got a sexless weekend on tap or what's up?
I mean, I try not to look into the future like that, you know. That ruins days, man. You know, I want to live in the moment. Just, you know, like my man McConaughey and Dazed and Confused, man. You just got to keep on living.
That's it. Time is a flat circle. Things go around. Cyclical.
Yeah. You know, funny, I'm glad you said flat circle because I propose sooner than later we talk about what it would actually feel like to stand on absolute zero.
Okay. All right.
I know Rick and Morty touched on it, and I thought it was brilliant because I never really thought about it. But when you think about it, considering we are constantly on a curve to actually stand on something like, I don't think we really have a comprehension of what flat would really mean or feel like. So if we felt it, that would be probably mind blowing. Yeah, so that's my Valentine's, and
alrighty then.
There you go.
Good, that's your thought. We'll be degrading into the flat earthers. But anyway, going today into The Warriors, a little film shot in 1978, released in 1979, and the film is a contemporary look at gang culture in New York at that time, and it goes into I'd say a subgenre of film. Well, two subgenres. One, just 70s filmmaking, which I am personally fascinated by. I went to film school, went to Emerson. So, of course, I work in fitness.
Yes, you do.
It's true. You know, like what else could you do? You go to school to be a filmmaker, and there you go. Like, that's about as practical as it gets. Yeah. But it is the 70s in and of themselves was such a fascinating time in filmmaking that will never come around again, I don't think. It's that idea when the rogues, when the outsiders, when the rebel filmmakers took over Hollywood for a brief shining moment, that, you know, prior to that, from the films, you know, from the silent age and on up, always followed that kind of Hollywood formulaic cinema style, boy meets girl, or if it was a film noir, Chez la Femme. You know, you just always had certain hallmarks, always things you could look for in a film, always things you knew that you were going to find in a film. And when you went out to the movies, there were hallmarks you could post on. But suddenly in the 70s, studios started taking chances on films that they have never taken chances on like before or since. And The Warriors is just a quintessential version of that. It was based on a book from the 60s, also about gang culture in New York. And part of the fascinating part about its evolution and its filmmaking is it went through several writes and rewrites, but because of the real life filmmaking in it, they were shooting at night in the Bronx. They were around real gangs. The cast had bricks thrown at them. You know, this was 70s New York, which was, you know, definitely a gritty and dangerous place, just as it was portraying on the film. So you have this meta aspect of young people playing gangs, surrounded by gangs in the very neighborhoods that they're representing and that they're talking about. it took a decidedly different approach than earlier gang films. Even Rebel Without a Cause and Blackboard Jungle. It was always the question of like, why is the youth so angsty? Why are they so angry? And how do we get them to straighten up and go to college and join and become this part of productive society, right? That was the drama. That was always the question. The Warriors never even approaches that question, right? The question in that is survival. That's the drama, right? The story is of a group of teens in early 20s from Coney Island who all head up from Coney Island all the way up Manhattan to the tip of the Bronx. And they go to meet with a gang chief, one of the rival gangs, the Riffs. And his name is Cyrus. And I was quoting that when I came in. Cyrus, exactly. Cyrus. And that gets into even deeper themes that I'll go into in just a sec. But he is this great, guy in just a great scene when he's addressing the gangs and trying to bring them all together in a really nowadays right-leaning worst nightmare of what they think, of what a lot of people think cities in America are like, where he proposes that if all the gangs in New York, instead of fighting each other, join forces and fight against the police, they outnumber them 10-1, right? So he's getting them all riled up, standing there, by the way, in a wonderful silk robe with his chest exposed, which is just unbelievable. Like nothing, the time it's aged so poorly and so exquisitely all at the same time. Nothing beats looking back on that age of style. That is both, it's kind of comical. It satirizes itself all at the same time as it's glorifying itself. Because
it was masonically pimpish.
It was. It's amazing. And here he is with this kind of big plan and this big idea, right? And I remember the thing. One of the things about this film that amazed me was I was young when it came out, so it's 79, so I'm about 5 years old, and I didn't see it then because I was too young. But I remember adults talking about it because actually here in Boston, there was a death associated with that.
Shout out to Josh's parents, by the way, for doing the bare minimum and not taking their 5-year-old to a radar movie.
That is really probably the bare minimum, by the way. As it got on, there was like less and less of that supervision, but like that was probably it. But I remember adults being concerned about the film, and that it scared me because I was 5. Right. And I remember seeing a few ads on TV and these guys and these gangs like driving a bus and they're slapping the side of the bus with baseball bats, and the Baseball Furies, which was this gang that had all the face paint, right? All the face paint and all of that. It just scared me like watching it because it was just scary. It was all these scary people, and they are scary. They're about to commit some brutal violence. Let's not mask it. But at the same time, I was fascinated. There was a part of me that's like, I have to see this movie, but I'm terrified all at the same time. So fast forward about 10 years, maybe a little less, maybe like 12, 13 is when I finally go down to the video store. Kids, I just want to take a moment to just walk you through history. We used to have to go out of our house and actually pick up a physical movie and bring it back to watch it. I just so you know.
Yeah. Video store was where it was at.
Absolutely.
Some of us had to rent the VCR to watch the video.
Fair enough. I remember getting the VCR. Happened. Yeah, I remember the first time getting a VCR. I remember all that. And Blockbuster Video was my first job. Look it up, kids. Again, Wikipedia. It's out there.
Shout out to Alaska, keeping it real. Last one standing. Shout out to Alaska.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But there was, so I had this fascination with this film. So when I finally saw it, it was it was everything I expected and more. It's like, oh my Lord, and it involves all of these other themes, including going back to Greek antiquity. Cyrus the Younger hiring 10,000 Greek, mostly Greek, mercenaries to try and take the throne away from his brother in Persia. And they got trapped behind enemy lines, and they're trying to fight their way out amongst the Persians. So that even that is a overarching theme, right? In this gang movie in the 70s.
Yeah.
One thing, and I know Rashawn's going to dig into it a little bit more, but it, like Psycho, has one of the more interesting things that the original character by the name of Fox is kind of he's the war chief, right? They give everybody awesome titles and names, right? Greg, I think I might have to start referring to you, by the way, as Rembrandt, because that's the name of one of the characters who tags everything with a W.
Wasn't there a gang? Wasn't there the Rembrandts? Wasn't there a gang, the Rembrandts?
No, but it's Marcelino Sanchez, who, when I was researching this as such, I actually I always recognized him because he was in the Bloodhound Gang. On there are two different actors in that movie who ended up in the Bloodhound Gang on PBS, right? Okay. Which is just sort of funny that happened in the middle of this rather gritty film. Right. And it turned out he died very young in the 80s, which is just really, really sad, But yeah, his character is Rembrandt, and he goes around and tags everything with a W for the Warriors. That's why they call him Rembrandt, right? He's the artist. He's the artsy kid. Yeah. He's the artsy kid in the gang. They all have great nicknames and titles. But the character Fox was supposed to be the main character, who ended up fighting with the director, getting in enough tension with the cast that they changed the character. They changed the character of the actor Michael Beck, who plays a guy named Swan, who was pretty handsome in his own right as well. And he ends up becoming the main character. And they ignominiously kill off Fox in a fight with the police in a subway station where that character Fox and another random cop get thrown in front of a subway car in a slow motion shot. That was just, it's so stark, right? And it's a moment of, wait, did that just happen? Yeah. And it goes back to what I was talking about a film that you just couldn't make today, because part of that was figuring out their own process, which is also writer, director, all deciding to fire one of their main actors, which is pretty rare. It happens nowadays, but it's just a much bigger deal, right? There's just so much more money on the line. There's so many more named actors involved in things. That taking that risk of just saying, okay, we're going to totally change that. They totally changed who the love interest went to with that, also because of on-screen chemistry between that. But to have the guts to be making a film, which is immense time, immense money, and to just suddenly say, okay, we're going to totally change this direction right here, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Or if it's not, I don't care. I'm just going to still keep making this film, right? There's this tension that you feel that translates to the film itself. It just everything, the aesthetic, the style, the glorification of violence, but yet the grittiness to it that seemed more real than other films in its contemporary time. And as I say, the fact that they're not trying to solve any of their problems. It is only them trying to get from the Bronx back down to Coney Island. And I'll leave it.
Part of the genius of that movie, and when you see tension, I think that's actually the thing that this movie does not get enough credit for. It builds tension in a masterful way because of that singular mission point of or plot point of the whole film. They treat it with so much respect, even though it's so simple. That tension gets built throughout that, no matter how you look at it, whether it's from comical to actually taking the movie seriously and all the elements involved, you cannot deny that throughout that movie, tension is built on the whole understanding that all they're trying to do is get home.
Absolutely. Even in the soundtrack, the very opening, the soundtrack, as they open and they're talking about heading to the meeting, they have that kind of gritty 70s, little bit of keyboard, a little bit of guitar, no drums, just everything kind of leading to, like something's going to happen, which does happen. Cyrus is killed. Don't want to give away too much for those who haven't seen it, but
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yes. The idea of the Warriors get the murder pinned on them, and they have every gang in the city chasing them, going from there. And my favorite is when Swan gets back to the city with, manages to lead his band of warriors back out to their home. I think my favorite moment is, the sun's coming up and he gets home, and it's before even what ends up being the climax of the film, but he just looks around. He says, I fought all night to get back here. What an amazing self-reflective moment, right, of New York City at that particular time of everything, right? But it's just, I wanted to give that kind of overview, but let me hand it over to Rashawn, who just had some interesting points and just some thoughts.